Look, and we'll be starting shortly. Look, and we'll be starting shortly. Just a reminder also that when the class starts to please mute your microphone so that we don't have any interference while the class commences, please.
So before the class starts, I just want to say it's a great privilege learning with everybody, and it's been an awesome experience here. I love the turnout every day. I get motivated by all of you coming here, having fun, learning, enjoying yourself, and exploring the metaverse. The future can only be now, and we are ready for it. So let's go. Let's do this. Let's learn. Let's grow. Let's create the positive connection, and let's take Web3 to where it's supposed to be, because this is why we are born and this is why we are here. We're never surrendering, never giving up. Just gonna do it and we're gonna make it. So I'm sending out extra motivation to everybody who is here, who is doing this. I look forward to seeing you making it big in Web3, changing the dynamic, setting the pace, and doing wonderful, unimaginable things in Web3 and blockchain technology. Love and respect from me, sir. I love you all.
Yes, I
AJ,
love the
but
energy.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are welcome 100%. I'm so happy to be here. That's why you see I'm just moving around, having fun, um, exploring all the components of this metaverse. The campus is really beautiful, and I must commend the design. The design is perfect. The learning center is great, and um, the mindset we have here is everything. It's just everything. So I'm so happy to be in this class every day. It's a blessing.
And the major aim for it, the major aim of writing threads at that point
Love
in
the
time was
energy.
so so it's a very fun. But I started teaching the
um,
students.
I think somebody is on Zelda. Can you? I think you're on mute. We're having feedback from your side.
Don't teach people how to trade, how to buy, how to get any calls. Basically,
I'll
everything
just
you get to know. So I started giving basically it was a deal, give calls. Then so I was teaching it of how would I say basically let me just break it down for you. I cried more. You can never ever satisfy those type of people. Why? They will always have problems, find fault in whatever it is, especially if it's restaurant. Especially if it's the first person you are seeing. You
um
will get it
he
a
I
lot.
just reached out to
Because
Zeda so he can
you
mute
can
his
work
mic.
hard.
I don't think his
Why
attention is here right now. But
directly threat? When you're not talking to
Seven, I just want to
I
say,
cried
thank you for
before.
those words that
You
you
can
have
never ever
said. I
satisfy
mean, personally for me throughout, I know you have been very consistent with the class and with every other person who is here. And one something that I want to share is that from the beginning of the class, one of the goals that I had was that people who consistently go through the class, people who are passionate about pursuing a career in community management, like this actually gives them an opportunity to do so, right? This gives them a starting point. This gives them the skill and the knowledge and the confidence that they need to take action in achieving their dreams. And I'm so excited that I see a lot of people showing up and really taking advantage of this, right? Despite, the challenges that you might have had when you were trying to, deal with the tech and everything, still following up on YouTube and still keeping up with the class activity. I mean, it has just been wonderful. And I hope today is actually the last day of the class, but then we have one more class on Thursdays, and then there are several events that would have throughout, like, the end of the year, right, for the community. So this is not like the last day that you have the chance to come here, because we're going to have more community activities that will be happening. But I hope that with this class, right, you would get the confidence that you need to pursue your dream, right, in the Web3 community management space. And even though you're not really concerned about pursuing a career there, the knowledge that you have gotten from this, that you may have gotten from this, I hope that it is helpful to you, and you just be an amazing Teddy, wherever you find yourself, and just spread that knowledge. So yeah, I think we're ready to start. So Andrew, would you like us to do a countdown? Because I think we're 9 minutes past our start time.
Good. Anytime.
All right, I'm ready. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to week 5 of our Web3 Community Management 101 class. So we've had this is the fifth class that we've had, and we've gone through different topics, from introduction to community management, to how you can set community goals and objectives, how you can define your audience and create your member persona, to week 3, where we talked about community engagement, why it is important. We also talked about, in our last class, community leadership and incentives, how you can be a good community leader for your community, and rally your community around a common goal, as well as use the right incentives to motivate people to take action. If you have missed out on those classes, don't worry, we have them up on YouTube, so you can always catch up on YouTube. And if you have any questions, feel free to come into Discord. We're always there 247 to answer your question. And this is week 5, and this is the last class that we have. But on Thursday, we have a very special guest who will be joining us. So if you receive the email, I'm sure you already know who our special guest is. But keep an eye out. We're going to release more information about that as we move on. So today we are talking about understanding community data, right? So we're going to go through understanding community data, how you can measure the success of your community initiatives. You're trying to host events, you're trying to introduce a new activity to your community. How can you tell if it's working? How can you tell if it's something that the community is interested in? Right? We're going to go through all of that today. And then we'll also tell you, now that you have this information, how can you use this information to improve, the work that you do, right? To improve how you manage the community. And then we'll look at common metrics, that you can track, to not just for the stakeholders, but also to inform you of how effective your community initiatives are and how people are responding to them. And then we'll also talk about best practices, how you can make sure that you are using this data correctly to achieve your goals. And then finally, we would look at the common tools that you can use to keep track of this data and these metrics. So let's get started. All right, let's look at community data. What is community data, right? So it's simply any information that you can collect about your community members and their interactions, right? And community data is even more critical in Web3 community management than the traditional community management, because Web3 communities are often more decentralized and autonomous, right? So meaning that community managers, they need this data to make decisions, right? They need to rely on this data to understand and engage with their communities. And some specific ways that community managers use community data in Web3 is, the first is to identify and engage with key community members. Right? So community data can be used to identify a community's most active and influential members, right? And then as a community manager, you can engage with these members directly to build relationships with them, right? To get feedback and to promote your community initiatives. And then it helps you to understand community sentiment, right? What is the overall feeling of the community about a particular topic or initiative, right? This data can tell you. So this information that you get can be used to make informed decision about how to proceed with community initiatives and address the members concerns. And then the third way that you can use this data is you can use it to measure the success of your community initiatives, right? So you can measure it, such as you can look at the number of participants, right, the level of engagement, and the overall impact on the community, right? So this information can be used to improve future community initiatives. But as we move on, we're going to look more into this particular way that how you can measure the success of a community initiative. And also, finally, this data can help you to identify trends and patterns in your community, right, in community behavior. And then with this information that you have, right, you can use it to anticipate the community's needs and develop targeted content and programs. So that is it about community data. It's simply any information that you can collect about your community members and their interactions with them. How are members responding to the initiative that you do? How are members responding to your community? How are members responding to the activities that you are introducing to them? All right, now let's move on to how you can measure the success of your community initiative, right? So measuring the success of um your community initiatives in Web3 is important, right? So when I say community initiatives, just to break it down, let's say one of the community initiative that you might be involved, that you might introduce to your community, might be maybe a workshop, right? A workshop for the members. It could be even a contest, right? Just any activity that you use to engage your community member, right? We can refer to that as a community initiative. So first, it allows you to track the progress of the initiative and see what is working and what is not, right? Secondly, it allows them to demonstrate the value of it allows them to demonstrate the value of their work to stakeholders, right? And then thirdly, it also allows you to make informed decision about how to improve these initiatives and to better serve your community members. So, for example, if you launch a weekly community call, right, you can track the number of people attending each call and the topics discussed. So you can use this data to identify the most popular topic and to schedule future calls accordingly. So if you see that for this particular topic, right, people are always responding to it, right? So And you can tell by the number of participants, by their level of engagement, and that tells you that, oh, okay, this is something that people are actually interested in, right? And then you can use that data to schedule future calls accordingly and to improve your initiative, because you already know one of the type of activity that interests your community members. And then the first step in tracking this community initiative is defining your specific goal, right? What metric do you need to track? So if your goal is to increase engagement, right? If your goal is to increase engagement, your metric could be things like the number of active users, number of messages sent, and um number of reactions received, right? So once you know the data that you need and you have set goals, you can now start tracking your community metrics to measure the success of your initiative, right? Because this helps you to see what is working and what is not. So some standard metrics, right, that you, as a community member, that you can track, right, is your member growth, right? The number of new members that are joining your community over time. You also want to track activity, right? So this is the amount of engagement in your community, right? Such as the number of messages sent, posts created, questions asked, questions answered, right? The engagement really that is happening in your community. And thirdly, retention, right? So remember the percentage of members that are still active in your community after a certain period of time. And then satisfaction, right? This is how happy your community members are with your community. As a community manager, these four metrics, right, are really important for you if you want to excel in your career, right? Because this can give you information about what you need to focus on. And tracking your metrics over time can help you to identify trends and patterns, right? So you want to know if people are, if you're actually retaining your members, or if there is a high churn rate, and then you can know what you um are going to focus on, right? So now we're going to look at how you can use this data to improve your community management. I hope we're keeping up. If you have any questions, um at the end of the class we'll have an opportunity for you to ask your question, or you can simply write them in the chat and we would get to it. All right, so if you're listening also from YouTube, right, you can also add your questions to the chat. We'll check that out, or you can ask your question on Discord. All right, so let's look at 5 ways that you can use this data to improve your community, um the work that you do as a community manager. So, the first is identifying areas for improvement, right? By analyzing your data, you can identify areas where your community is struggling, right? Where your community struggles. So this could be anything from low member engagement to a need for more new content, right? So you have taken your time, you have set up an event, you choose a topic, and then nobody shows up, right? Or no one is engaging, right? So this can tell you that probably this content that you're trying to give members, it's not what they are interested in. So there's a need for a new content, right? Or you need to be more involved in the in the engagement of the community, right? So it just tells you, what you need to improve on, right? And the second one, which is like a continuation of the first one, is prioritizing your task, right? So once you have identified the areas for improvement, once you know, oh, this content no longer resonates with my audience, right? It's time for a new content. It's time for some more new content, right? You can prioritize your task so that you are working on the most important things. So at that point in time, your focus now would be how you can get more content that the community actually needs, right? How you can actually make them to actually um say the kind of content that they are interested in, right? So how can you know the content that members are interested in? You can do a poll on Discord, right? Or wherever your community is hosted, a very simple poll, and just ask member, right? There's something about asking, right? Just ask, what kind of topics are you interested in, right? You could also give them some like suggestion of topics that they can pick from based on their interest, and that also gives you like an indication that, oh, this is what members are interested in. So if you see that members are not responding to a particular activity that you're doing, it's probably because they are not interested in that, or that is not why they are in your community. So you need to find out why they are there, right? What kind of content that they are interested in. And then making data driven decision, that's the third one. When you have data to support your decision, you are more likely to make the right choices. Just like the example of the poll that we just used. You set up a poll on your Discord, and you ask members, right, what kind of what kind of content would you like, and then there's a particular and you tell them just react to this poll, right? Just react to this poll, and then you see that one topic has about 100 reactions, or 50 reactions, or 20 reactions, right? A lot higher than the other, right? That's already helping you make like data driven decision, because it tells you that this is what they're actually interested in, right? So that actually increases your chances of making the right decision and members actually showing up for that event, right? And then also identifying and engaging with key community members, right? Remember when we talked about in week 3, we talked about community engagement, and we said 20% of we use the 80-20 rule, the parental principle, that 20% of your community members will be responsible for the engagement that the other 80% consumes, right? So your community data can help you to identify and engage with these key community members, right? And you can then once you have identified these active members, you can now engage with these members directly to build relationships, right? Like we said earlier, to get feedback from them, because they are very engaged, right? They are more likely to give you feedback, right, based on their interaction with your community. And then also promote your community's initiative, right? And then finally, use data to personalize your community's experience, right? So this will make your community more relevant and engaging for individual members, right? So for example, you could recommend new content to members based on their past behavior, right? So this is just telling us that knowing how to on this knowing your goal, and knowing the kind of metrics to keep an eye on that supports the goal of the community would help you make better decisions in your community management career moving forward, right? So data, I always tell people that one of the most important skills that community managers have is listening skills, right? So there's always something to pay attention in your community, even when you know it could be active listening, right, or not, right? There's always something that you can pay attention to see what members are. You could also get this insight from member to member interaction. So you want to pay attention to what's happening in your community, and this data will tell you, right, it will help you to likely make the right decisions. Now, what kind of metrics can you track? What kind of common metrics can you track? There are a lot of metrics that, as a community manager, that you can track. There are a whole lot, right? And I tell community managers, right, when you are just involved in a community, right, aside from the 4 standard metrics that we mentioned earlier of member growth, of satisfaction, of retention, right, you want to also make sure that the metrics that you're keeping track of, or the goal that you're working towards, is aligned with what the stakeholders, is aligned with what the stakeholders want, and is priority at that point in time, right? Because there are different times, a different lifetime of the community, right? There are different priorities, right? So as the community evolves, right, priority changes. So as a community manager, you want to make sure that you are aligned with the other team members, and you're working towards the same goal. You know your priority. So the specific data that you will track will depend on your community goal. right, and the platform you use, right? But if you're confused about what you can keep an eye on, right? Some of the things that you can keep an eye on is member growth, number of new members joining your community, activity, amount of engagement that is happening in your community, retention also, right? So this is the percentage of members that are still active in your community after after a period of time, a certain period. And then satisfaction also. How happy are your community members with your community, right? Engagement, we mentioned it earlier. And then conversion, right? So the member, this is the conversion is the percentage of members who take a desired action, right? It could be signing up for a newsletter or purchasing or anything, right? Really what you want members to take action on. So you want to be keeping an eye on the number of members who are actually taking an action based on that. And also we're looking at stickiness, right? How long your members stay active, right? And then demographics, which is also important, right? So this can give you, this is the information about your members, right? Such as their age, gender, location, interest. And also we mentioned sentiment, right, which we can also relate to satisfaction. How are members feeling, the overall tone of communication in your community. Also, you want to also keep track of event attendance, right? What events have the most number of participants, right? So what event have the most and what events have the least, right? That can help you move towards the topics that are more that the members that you think the members should be more interested in. And then you want to also check the churn rate, right? Members that are leaving your, how often are members leaving your community. Now, the specific data you track, we mentioned it before, depending on the goal, right? So don't make the mistake of that, because there are lots of things that you can track, and sometimes it may not support the goal of the stakeholders at that point in time. So make sure that it is aligned. So you want to ask question like, um what is your goal, right? What is my priority at this point in time? What metrics do you want me to keep an eye on? What would success look like, right? Because different communities will rate success on different metrics, right? There's some communities that will rate success solely based on the engagement, right? There are others that rate success based on conversions, right? Based on different activities. So make sure that is aligned, right? Because by tracking this data, you can better understand how your community is performing. You can make informed decision about its management, right? So for example, if your member growth is slowing down, you can take steps to improve your content strategy, right? Or if you see that engagement is declining, you can identify areas where you can enhance the community's experience, right? So it just helps you. There's something about how this data just helps you to, have priority, right? Different priority at different times, right? Based on, what is happening, and not just guesses, right? You're not guessing. So tracking the data is an essential part of, your career as a community manager, right? So this can help you ensure that your community is on the right track and you are meeting the needs of your members. All right, so now let's talk about best practices, right? Because it's not just about taking and keeping track of this data. It's also about making sure that you are doing it right and correct, right? So the first thing that you want to do in tracking this community data is to set clear goals and KPIs, right? So before you can start tracking any data, it's essential for you to set clear goals, right? This will help you focus on the data that is more important to you. I remember we mentioned it earlier, right? So make sure that you have clear goals and KPI. If your goal at that time, it could be monthly, it could be quarterly, right? So what is your goal? Is it engagement? Is it conversion? Right, event attendance, right, to reduce your churn rate, to increase conversion within your community, right? What is your goal at that point in time? Identify your goal, and um this can help you to measure the right metric. So let's say, for instance, your goal is to increase your community by 10% in the next quarter, right? So one of the metrics that you track are the number of new members that are joining. Could be weekly, could be monthly, right? So you have that KPI set. And also start small and with the basics, right? There are lots of data that you can track. There are lots, right? But track only a few pieces of data um at once, right? Track only a few pieces at once. Start with a few key metrics and then add more as needed. A few key metrics that supports the community goal. And as you move on, you add more metrics, right? So identify the most critical metrics and start tracking them. That's a good starting point for you as a community manager. So don't make the mistake of tracking the of trying to track all the data, because there are lots of data that you can actually track. But when starting, start small, start with the most critical, start with the basics. Also, use a variety of data sources, right? There are a variety of data sources that you can use to track your community's analytics, right? So, for example, like Discord, for instance, if your community is on Discord and that's where you manage, right? So there are third-party bots that you can use. There is Discord server insights that you can use, right? There are also third-party sites, right, that you can use, right, to track different, because these different sources, right, they provide you different data, right? So sometimes it may be difficult to have all the data that you want from one source, right? So you can use others to complement, like the ones that you use, but make sure that you just limit it to two or three, so that you don't overwhelm yourself with like too much data to track and too many platforms to keep an eye on, right? So also use visuals, right? Use charts and graphs to visualize your data, make it easy to understand. And most of these platforms, they also provide you with these graphs that you can use when you're presenting your data. The next best practices is to share your data, right? So this data is not just for you, right? Because the marketing team, this data would also be valuable to them, right? To know the kind of content that they put out, right? Because sometimes your community can exist in different platforms, right? So your community, it could be that some members keep up with your community with the newsletter that you send. Some keep up with the updates that you post on Twitter. Some keep up, by checking on Discord. Some keep up with LinkedIn, right? So you want to make sure that you share this data with the marketing team, and that can help them to, know, right, how to better serve your members no matter where they are connecting with you from. Also, track your data over time, right? It's not a one-off. Tracking data is not a one-off activity. You don't want to track your data month A and do not track your data month B, right? Even though things are moving very well for you, you want to make sure that you are consistent, because this will help you to, see how your community is growing and evolving, and you can quickly catch on the changes that is happening fast in your community, right? And then the last one is use this data to make improvement. So it's one thing for you to see that engagement is declining. It's another thing for you to um find a way to increase engagement, right? A way to create more initiatives that members are interested in. Right? So the data you collect, right, should be used to improve your community. So this could be like including things like changing your content strategy, right? Or improving your moderation or launching new initiatives. So following these best practices can improve your community and achieve your goals. Now, how can you track this data? What are the common tools that you can use in tracking this data? Let's quickly take a look at that. All right, so to get started with tracking tools, you can use with tracking your community data. You can use various tools and resources. Let's talk about Discord bots, right? The community is hosted on Discord. They're a popular way to track data in Web3 communities, right? Because they're easy to use and can be configured to track a wide range of metrics, such as user activity, message volume, sentiment, right? So some popular bots are Startbot. You can also use Dino. There's also Orbit Love that you can use to track this data, and also Server Insights, right? The Discord analytics board, I think, is only available when you have up to 500 members in your community. And the Discord provides a lot of data that you need. Remember, we talked about the engagement rate in your community, the 80-20 rule, right? Discord would tell you at what percentage the engagement in your community is. Discord also has a benchmark, right, based on the most active communities, and the benchmark that Discord gives is 15%. So you see when you're doing very well in your engagement and when you're actually below par, right? So take advantage of server insights if your community is hosted on Discord. There's a lot of information that you can get there. You can check daily, weekly, as well as monthly, and also social media analytics, right? So they can be used to track data from different social media like Twitter, right? If your work involves Twitter, Reddit, or even Telegram, right, based on where your community is hosted, they can track metrics like your reach, your engagement, sentiment, right? So also want to, wherever your community is hosted, or you also want to make sure that you take advantage of the inbuilt analytics board that comes with it. I know Telegram also gives some very vital information, so take advantage of that. And also Google Analytics, right? Yes, Google Analytics. So if as a, because we know that the role of the community manager is constantly evolving, and if there's any part of your duty, right, that has to do with like the website and web applications, right? Google Analytics, is a good place to let you know, um, tell you about this data, right? So it can be used to track traffic, page views, and conversion rates, right? And it's a free tool and it's easy to use and provides a wide range of data. And we also talk about blockchain analytics too. But before we talk about blockchain analytics too, one other thing that I also wanted to quickly mention is to track links, right? So to track links, and let's say you want members to take action in your community, and for them to take action they have to click on a particular link, right? You can actually track the number of persons that have clicked on that link, right? So let's say for instance you have um a feedback form, and you have 50 clicks on the link, and then just only one or two responses, right? It tells you that maybe there's something. It tells you, like members members are experiencing a hiccup, right? So you can actually know that, oh, okay, there have been a lot of interest, right? Members have actually clicked on this, right? Because they want to fill it up. So probably they have encountered an issue, right? And that can actually let you know how you can maybe make the form easier to fill, or just work on it, right? And one of the platforms that you can do that is Rebrandly, right? So Rebrandly is a good place for you to track links, to be your social media links, or whatever link that you want to know if people are actually clicking on that link, so you have that data. And then let's talk about blockchain analytics too. If you are involved in a community, a DeFi community or NFT community, right? A smart contract based community, basically, right? So they can be used to track data from blockchain, right? So this data can track metrics like wallet activity, token transactions, smart contract interaction, right? So if your work also involves that, you can, it's also important that you're tracking this data based on what your job is in that community, right? So some popular tools are Nassim.ai. We also have Gene Analytics and Glassnode. They provide very valuable blockchain analytics. All right, so in addition to this general purpose tool, there are also several specialized tools that can be used to track data in your community, right? So some tools can track data from specific Discord servers, Telegram channels, and social media groups, right? So but really the best tool for tracking data in your community will depend on the specific needs of the community manager. So for as a community manager, if your job does not involve tracking, taking note of what happened on the website, right? That data really doesn't concern you at that point in time, right? So you would not need Google Analytics, right? If your job really just involves Discord, so you need to focus on the tools that you need to track your data on Discord, right? If your work goes beyond Discord to Twitter, right? So That would also mean that you need to keep an eye on analytics of Discord and on Twitter, right? Remember that there are a lot of information that you can track. The goal is to make sure that you are starting with the most critical, metrics, the most critical data that supports your community's goal. All right, so let's recap. Community data is essential because it allows community managers to understand their communities better. So as a community manager, if you want to excel in your career, you need to learn how to interpret this information that you get, right? How to interpret this data, right? Because it can help you make informed decisions about how to engage with your members, improve your community experience, and achieve your community's goal. Right? Remember, we mentioned it earlier. If there's an activity that members are, responding positively to, right? That already, gives you, the information that okay, this is something that members resonate with, and how your thought then will be, how can I make this better? And if you um introduce an activity and nobody shows up and it crickets, it could be that that doesn't really solve the problem of members at that point in time, or that's not, members are not interested in that. So the priority at that point in time would be for your next initiative, is this something that my members would be interested in, right? So as a DeFi community, what kind of how can I educate my members, right? What kind of content, will my community members resonate with? Right? Are they struggling to use my application? How can I create a an easy to use guide, right? So basically at every point in time, you're thinking about how you can make your members' lives better as they interact with your community, right? So you need to track this data over time to identify trends and patterns, right? Because this information, can help you to anticipate the community's needs and improve your community's initiatives and improve the overall experience for your members. All right, so um, we've come to the end of the class. Yay! Can we have some gun show? Yeah. Who else is as excited as I am? Let's get some gun show. Great, 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 nice. All right. So we've come to the end of the class, and if you have been following up from the beginning of the class, we've had some practical exercises that we've been involved in from the week 2 of the class, where we started building our community strategy. We choose the where we chose a community, the type of community, and you know as over time, as we moved on from our classes, we've had to update our sheet with engagement, how we would engage our communities. So if you don't know, if you're hearing this for the first time, you don't know how to get started, please go back to week 1 to week 4. Go back to the classes of week 1 to week 4, as this will help you to understand how to get started with this. I've also shared how you can also do this on Discord. There's a to-do video that I've shared on Discord that you can also watch to catch up to speed with it. So for week 5, um for the engagement activity, if you have been following up for the engagement activity that we did from the previous classes, now it's time for us to identify 7 of the most important metrics, right, that support our community's goal. So let's say, for example, for Third Academy, right, for the one that I've been doing for Third Academy, let's say um to one of our goal, right, to educate, right, to inform, and one of the activities I would do would be event attendance. If you have been following up, you would see where I have mentioned this. It's event attendance. It's if creating events, right? So one of the metrics that I'll track is event attendance, right? Because I'm saying I want to see the event that I'm hosting, how many members are showing up for this event, how engaged are they, right? Which of the events did I host that members do not really show up, right? So that shows that, oh, this is a topic that they might not really be interested in. So which event did I host that members really showed up and members were highly engaged, right? So that is the what I will lean more towards and find ways to make it better. So you still have the time to take part in that. Do we have all the slides for our class on Discord, and we have all the videos on YouTube. So you have all the course materials in your hands and easily accessible to you. All right. So just like I mentioned earlier, Thursday we have Lacey from Meta Intro. Yeah. So Lacey will be taking us on how you can build a profitable career as a community manager. Now you have gone through the 5 weeks of intense class, right? I believe it has been intense. How can you then move into the Web3 world, right? And build this career for yourself? What needs to be done? What are the mistakes that you need to avoid, right? How can you niche yourself as a community manager? How can you apply for this job? What is the best way to apply for this job? What are the common mistakes that you should avoid, right? This and so much more of your question that we'll be taking through. I'm sure a lot of us know Lacey. She's the founder of Meta Intro, where they share jobs. She has a community of over 200K, right? So they share over 3K jobs on a monthly basis. So Lacey will be here to share with us and talk to us from her knowledge in the space. All right, so I'm looking forward to that class, right? So now that the class has also come to an end, we would have a final test for the class, and more information on that will be released on Discord. So if you're not on Discord, please connect with us on Discord to get more information on that. So yes, we have come to the end of our class, and if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, feel free to write them on the chat or mute your mics, and let's hear what you have to say.